All right, so today starts part 12 of the Peterbilt frame stretch build, and we are on to tires. We need to get all these tires off these rims. These are old recaps. They're from like 2005, and you'll see here there's a lot of splitting and dry rot in the tires. Some of the tires have some pretty good sidewall cracking. A couple of them are low on air leaking. So we're going to replace them, and we're replacing them with these. We're going to put 8 recap drives on and 2 virgin steers on. Now before you go and start condemning the recaps, if you don't want to use them, don't. But for this particular situation, I think it'll be fine. The casings are not old, the recaps are new. The truck will basically runs about 50, averages about 40 miles an hour typically, because it's all local, but you're looking at 55 miles an hour tops. Drives for 20 minutes, sits for 20 minutes, drives for 20 minutes, sits for 20 minutes. So it's not like it's going down the road, you know, it's 74 miles an hour for 10 hours a day. So these are a cost-effective option for his truck. If you don't like to run them, don't, but you don't need to hate on them in the comments, because it's pointless. These ones are horrible. We're going to dismount them. The owner's going to come and get these wheels, and he's going to clean them up and paint them, which is fantastic, because this is not going to be easy to get to. I think it's best just to take them in, have them sandblasted and painted, and be done. But let's get these things dismounted. All right, we got all the wheels dismounted for the drives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the spacer plates are ready to go. So next thing we got to do is get the lift axle off of Soup Sandwich. So this shouldn't be too horribly difficult, since it's really not on there very well. We're going to go ahead and cut the air lines loose, cut the zip ties, cut that line up in the front, and then we'll start taking the airbags loose. We got 3 bolts of airbag, 1 for the shock, and then 6 here. So it shouldn't take long at all. So these are, this lift axle is spring lifted, so it doesn't matter. I can cut these loose, and this one's just for the service brakes. Crap out there. Many people on the video I did showing this frame now that the body is off said that they can't believe the DOT didn't put this out of service. See, the thing is, maybe you didn't see the other video, but the first video about this truck frame was when he brought it to me to do the lighting. I saw some of this stuff and I refused to work on it. So it's never been registered, it's never been used on the road since all this work was done. So didn't get a chance to get seen by an inspector. So, all right, let's go. No, these aren't even tight. There's one that is. That big massive hole, that little 1/2-inch bolt.
The first one you took out wasn't tight, that's for sure.
No, it certainly wasn't. Look, the threads are off of this one. Nothing left for threads.
Well, no wonder it's such a jagged hole that it went in.
Yeah. That's what that was. Look. You see this one here? These holes are so huge. These weren't even tight, so this bolt won't come out because it's sagging on these ones. And this one's not even tight. Look at that. Okay, we gotta get the airbag mounts off, and that's it. Look at them horrible torch cut holes. Look at that crap. Can you see that good? Look at that. Man, that's supposed to hold weight. God. Look at that, man. Yeah. That's this side. Oh yeah. Good night, Charlie Brown. Holy crap. It just gets worse, man. God. All right, we got to get the airbag nuts off here. I gotta get this fitting off. We need them hose cutters again. We'll get this. Well, yeah, we'll cut that crap, and then we'll get this off here, and then we're ready to drop it. The unfortunate thing is I got it backed in here, and this ICC wannabe ICC bumper. Why in God's name did you not take it all the way to the top? I'll never know. But we're gonna be too. This is gonna be too tall. I'm not gonna be able to get over it. So I'll have to either drop the tires off it or something. I'm not sure. Look at that. The weld just fell off.
Vibrated off.
Oh, priceless. Look at this. Dry fittings. They reused them and didn't put anything on them for sealant. Nothing.
Wow.
Yeah. Here, you can hang on to that weld. You might need it for later.
Yeah. Nice. Just fell right off. Yeah, you try not to look at it too much because it's so bright.
Oh, yeah. Watch your feet. I don't trust that weld on that side to hold everything.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Pretty bad.
Getting rain in my glasses, I can't see nothing.
I know, this weather's something else. Hailing earlier today. It might snow tonight. I guess it did hold it.
What's that?
I guess it did hold. The one side held the other side up. Shocking.
So much rain on my glasses, I can't tell there's a hole.
I know. I hate getting drops on my glasses.
Alright.
Okay. There she goes. Oh, must have been full of water.
I just pulled this out of there. It's no wonder. Look at these stinking holes. Horrible. Two different lengths. Yeah, they're all different lengths here. I'm going to pull it out of there.
brake dust or whatever that is.
Wow. These are those composite drums, cast and steel. Look at that. Man. Who puts crap like that together?
Not you.
Oh boy. Let's see. Leaking axle seal. Look at that.
Oh boy, that's
That's gear oil.
yuck.
That's from right there. That's not good.
Oh my gosh, I'm so tired of finding problems on this. I mean, I just want to
This
be
feels
done.
like a bad bearing. Try and move that thing.
Yeah, it moves hard. Well, look, what's packed in here? This is
Gear
weird.
oil.
Oh, because
Yeah, look at this one.
that side has a nice groove in it. There's nothing packed in there.
See how nice and easy?
Oh yeah, something's not right. That's for sure.
Something is badly wrong. Look at the brakes. That tells us that the brake linings and the drums are worn. There's a big ridge here on the drums, so it needs shoes. It needs drums.
Oh my gosh. Let's just skip town.
Yeah, really. I'm not a very.
I'm sick of this.
I don't know. This just keeps getting worse.
I don't know. It's like a train wreck. You can't look at it too close or it's bad.
What do you bet? We got molasses or what?
Who knows? The bucket's a little too tall to spin it. Boy, ain't much coming out of there, is there?
Nope.
It's not a good sign.
Oh, it uses them fantastic lock tab nuts. I have removed these more times than not because I just don't like them. They're built into the backer. I just don't care for those. Anyways, let's get that apart. Ain't much oil. Can't imagine why it's such a problem. Wonder if it's bearing preload set too hot, tight, or bad bearings, because that feels awfully tight. There, it's wearing on that inside edge all the way around. So it may have been too tight. But look, syrup coming out of it. Oh, look at that. Okay. This is one of those bearings that that spacer goes between the two, and you tighten it up, and that's your preload. Wheel real quick. The same. Worn here. You see the distinct line there. This is a lift axle. It gets a lot less use. Timken. Let it drain into this. Well, I'm so tired of this crap. Let's just quit.
Okay. Let's just run
Yeah, look at how worn the brakes are. You're so far up on the S cams, it's about to roll over. Roll over meaning you're gonna apply it and it's gonna start going closer instead of farther away, you know. Well, yeah, I don't know. There's something really weird. There's marks like this, and I keep trying to wipe them off, but they keep reappearing. I don't know, maybe the bearing preload was too tight. But that would mean that piece of pipe that goes between the bearings is worn or ran loose or something, right?
Well, let's hope this one's not as bad.
It's got oil. I don't know. It's not good. I see metal in this. That sucks.
I don't know, the other one sure was a mess. He stuck it in the parts washer, the hub or whatever, because it was just so gross. Caked on.
Yeah, we're gonna get some more mineral spirits for that. Yeah, look at this, man. That's how long it's been since it's actually rested down in there.
Oh boy.
Look at that. Probably get a trash bag or something.
Yeah, we don't want to step in that.
Well, this is the airbag that was completely ripped apart. I took the other one apart so I could look at the bottom of it, and true to form, snap that mounting bracket off, that mounting bolt. So we'll be getting 2 new airbags. And let's see, those brake shoes are soaked in gear oil, so we're going to replace them. The seal is no good, so we're going to replace that. Slack adjuster's loose. This side's loose. We're going to be replacing them. This shock, I don't know what we're doing here, if they're any good. I don't care about the shield. And cut that shield off. I don't know, that might be a place we can save a couple bucks right there. Oh yeah, that shock's still good. Well, thank goodness. I think the brake chambers look okay. The S-cams, yeah, slack adjusters seem to be okay. They're pretty tight. They seem to be working. Maybe we'll get away with that, but this other set of brakes on this side is got some rust jack in between the two, and it's starting to come loose from the steel. So looks like it's getting brake shoes, drums, slack adjusters, bushings, seals. Good Lord, another resurrection. So I'm cleaning up the hubs and the bearings and all that, and look at this. Look how deep this has worn into that bearing. There's actual metal missing here, and there's a ridge. Nice. Nice. Haven't cleaned this one up yet. No, this one isn't like that. However, it's got a bunch of like metal been in between there. Another thing I noticed was the tab where it sits in the slot on the spindle on this one was kind of turned a little bit. I guess it's okay. I cleaned these bearings up and got a look at them, and after thinking about it, like, this lift axle is only going to be down less than 1/6 of the miles that'll be put on this truck, because it's only going to be down when they first fill the tank at the supply house. So at the first stop, now they're not going to need it anymore, so it'll be up. So I really don't see the need to replace these bearings at this point. We'll revisit these the next time we do brakes. I'm not a fan of these. These are supposed to lock down. You know, you set that in there, put that in that keyway, you tighten these down to the torque spec, and it's supposed to squeeze these two bearings, basically something like this. I guess it'd be this way. squeezes it like this, and then this goes on top of this and tightens this up as a unit on, you know, the inside of these bearings, which is great if this has never been over torqued or bearing spun or damaged or whatever. And if it has, then it gets shorter and you end up over torquing your bearings. I don't care for them. I prefer the old method of, you know, checking free play and what have you, but whatever. So we got to get some more mineral spirits. It's not deep enough. I can't get the bottom covered and saturated. It needs to soak, get all that gear oil off both of them, because both of them had seals leaking. This one's just leaking right now. This one did, and nobody cleaned it up. So we'll have to get some more of that, and I got to order a bunch of brake parts, airbags. I don't know what else. We'll see. All right, so I pulled that S-cam out of this side so I can measure it, so I can get it ordered and get a bushing kit. It's actually worn, so the bushings are worn so badly, it's letting it wear into the encapsulation bracket that holds the bushing in, just like everything else. Worn out junk, absolute worn out garbage. We need to replace these drums, so we need to identify which ones they are. So I laid it flat here so we can get a measurement. We need to know the overall height, which is 10 and 7/16 about. Yeah, something like that. 10 and 7/16, and about 10 and it's about 10 and a quarter underneath here. So about 10 and a quarter, and the center, it's a little over 8 3/4. So this is probably going to be 8.78 maybe. And then we need to identify the brake shoes. We know that these drums are, I measured them already, the diameter is 16 and a half, and the shoes are 7. So they're 7 by 16 and a half, and then we identify what type of shoe it is by this right here. Different indications, like if it's got a hump anywhere, the location of the holes, the diameter of the holes. Gets a little involved, but it's not difficult. Just got lucky on the brake shoe. I happened to see that sticker was there. I wiped it off, and it tells us that they are 4707 Qs. So we don't need to identify, but if we did, we'd identify by this profile, the diameter of this hole, the distance between the holes, the diameter of this hole, distance from this hole to certain measurements, and we'd use a chart. But since we know these are 4707s, that ain't bad, and they're from 2008. So I got a couple years on them. It's no wonder they're starting to rust jack and come apart between the two. So that made that a little easier. Let's move on to the S-cams. This one here looks like an H68. This is a right hand, and they are for, you can make that out, 16.5 Q, probably QP or R brakes. So now we can hopefully match that number up. If we can, great. If we can't, well, we'll have to do some measuring, and we'll have to measure the thickness here of the webbing itself, right in this area. That is thinnest part right here. And then we'll need to measure the diameter here. Now you can see how worn this really is, how bad it is. You'll notice this diameter here is larger than this diameter. Then we'll need to know this total length from here to here, as well as the spline count. Now we know this is around 21 inches long. These are 28-inch splines. These are 1.62, I believe, and this is 1.50. And the thickness I haven't measured yet. But we're going to try the part number first and see if we can order it that way and save me a bunch of grief. Now we're on to the seals. This one's pretty simple. This is Stemco. It's a 2106. So we'll convert that over, see if we can get it in a Rev HD. Then the only thing left would be the S-cam bushings, which typically get sized according to, you get the kit according to which S-cam you have. So that's pretty simple. So let's see what we can find. One more thing I almost overlooked was the cap. This is Stemco cap 4119. It's for the end of the hub, and this has obviously been boogered together. So we're going to see if we can find, this looks like Torx bits. We're going to see if we can find just the end cap, and we'll get us a couple new gaskets coming. And that, other than getting the steel that we need to manipulate this to work. Oh, airbags. Forgot the airbags. Airbags are nothing big deal. These aren't that old, and you know, the sticker's still on them. But that's what happens when stuff gets put together wrong. That's a waste of $300 right there. I think he said they were 150 or 175 bucks a piece he paid. So that's unfortunate, but they're both junk. That one had the bottom completely ripped off of it, and this one has the studs broken out of it because it was overextended and improperly installed. Let's see if we can get everything coming. All right, we're starting to get some parts in. We got 2 new drums, new brake shoes. We got our S-cams left and right. Those were a treat because the measurements that I had, and I checked them many, many times, did not match up to the ones we got perfectly. So I took it with me when I went to go pick it up and matched it up, and I'll be danged if that isn't exactly the same thing. The spec says it wasn't, but it was. We got our hub gaskets for the out part of the hub, and we got our new axle nuts. We didn't get exactly what we needed here. I still have to find the 2 outers. They only had inners with the pin, so it goes inner, lock washer, you know, the locking washer for this, and then this one goes in like this. And some people use these, some don't. Some axles do, some don't. And then you'd have an outer nut like this without the pin. Now I could probably drive that pin out, I just don't want to. And you'd put that on there and then bend the tabs over to keep it in place. So I have to find 2 of the outers. These are 4-inch outside, 3 1/4 inside, 12 threads per inch. So I gotta find that. I need 2 outer nuts yet to get that. The S-cam bushings are on their way, and the Rev HD seals are on their way, and I think that's gonna be, I think it's everything we need. We're gonna reuse the bearings and races. We'll revisit these again the next time that we see the truck, because these hubs come off real easy. It's not like Dayton's, like these ones, so we'll be able to check those bearings and seals and all that stuff real easily. But that's where we're at right now. Got a few more parts come in, then we're going to start the reassembly. We got a little bit of work left to do because I got my T's in. They came in. I ordered these T's for back here on this axle so we could finish our plumbing. I got to make a bracket for them, so we're going to start that so I can finish up all the plumbing on these axles right quick. Alright, so this is going to be the plate for the differential to hold the T's for the airlines. One T is for releasing the spring brake, and the other one is for the service brake. So I cut the old mounting block off. We're going to put this like this, and I've got it kind of curved to match the rear end, so we're going to weld it right on like that. So next I need to drill a couple holes in there and a drill press because it's too little to do by hand, and I don't want to have to do it right there. So I'm working on bringing the service brake line and the spring brake release lines in here to go to hard plastic. I bought these T's, they're made by Bendix, but I couldn't find the thread I need. This is a 1/2-inch pipe thread, this is 3/8. Well, the service line needs 1/2 inch for the volume come in, then it comes down to 3/8 to either side. So I just took a drill bit, drilled out to 23/64, and we're just going to tap that for pipe thread. It's just like what Bendix would do. You can see how much extra meat is on here. So we're just going to do that, and then we can put our fitting back in. Of course, we're going to straight fitting now, but anyways, it should work. Shoot, that worked out pretty good. Since I cut the threads, they're not machine threads, I went ahead and put Teflon tape plus some thread compound just in case. But I think we're good. Now we just need to get the one for the spring brake release. The same fitting. I got to find another one like this. I've been digging through my old fittings trying to find, you know, ways to save a few bucks. I've got the rear axle all finished up now, Both my T's are in. We tapped that one because it wasn't the right one. I drilled out and tapped it. And then I got 2 new hoses and zip tied them. And I've got everything pretty much handled back here. I don't have this stuff zip tied yet because I still have another relay valve to come back for this lift axle and a hose air supply to come back for the actual airbags. Everything up here on these 2 axles is finished up plumbing wise. I ran a new supply line to that relay valve. It's a 5/8, and I ran it long. Let it come up this way because I don't know where we're mounting these tanks. I really don't want to use these tanks, but at this point I don't have anything else to work with, and it's better than running this whole entire thing with just that one tank for the rear brakes, which now has 6 chambers to feed instead of 4. So we need more capacity. It's better than nothing, and we got 2 of those. So I was going to run 1 for the airbags on the rear, but I think I'm just going to use both of these and put them in series so we can run it off the primary brakes. So both extra tanks will just feed the back brakes, these back axles for the brakes. That's all they're going to do. So we're going to bring a separate feed back for the lift axle and its relay, so it'll come off of one of these tanks as well. So we're kind of as far as we can go until I get this thing sitting on its own feet. We got the wheels back. They're out here. They're all painted up and ready to put valve stems in and mount the tires on them. So we're going to do that next. The first thing to do is put a new valve stem in and take the needle out of the valve stem so they'll be easier to air up. I've got all 8 for all the drives we're doing right now. Beat that, James Pretty. All right, I got all 8 tires mounted on the wheels. Now I am putting them on the truck. So these are what are referred to as spoke wheels, wagon wheels, hubless center, Dayton wheels, whatever you want to call them. Instead of having actual hub with lug nuts that go around this way, they have these wedges that are tapered. And the tapered wedges are how you center the wheel. Alright, so when you go to tighten this up, this part here wedges in between here and has a stopper here, and it kind of recesses. So as you put it in there, it starts to squeeze it in. So the trick to these is getting them on straight. And what I mean by that is I put it on and snug them up, and then I start to turn the wheel, and I want that wheel to be about the same all the way around. This is going to be hard for me to do because I'm holding the camera and moving the tire. But anyways, that's the idea. So you tighten them up little by little, and if you have a place that's too far out, another place that's too far in, you may have to loosen up the part that's too far in, tighten up the one that's too far out, you know, and play with it a little bit. It's not difficult, it's just time consuming. But I am done with all 8 of these now, so I'm going to go back and recheck all of them to make sure that they are indeed as true as I want them to be. This method works pretty well for me because that jack doesn't move, you know, and it's easy to sight it. But usually I'm not holding the camera, and usually I'll have my wife spin the wheel and I'll stand here and watch it so I'm not moving. That's the best way I found to do it. But anyways, any stationary object next to it, just so you can see what it is. Now that that is done, we are going to drop this down on its wheels. We're going to air up the system and adjust the ride height real quick. Oh, this is a fantastic day. I have been waiting for this for so long. All the wheels are mounted. We are no longer on jack stands. The sawhorses are gone. We are now sitting on Peterbilt air leaf suspension, holding the truck up finally. The next step to this process is to set the ride height. Peterbilt wants us to set our ride height based on the center of the axle, measure from the center of the axle to the bottom of the frame. And if I remember right on this air leaf suspension, I believe they call for 11.70. We're going to call it 11 3/4 because that's close enough for us. So their measurement's kind of hard to do because I can't exactly get underneath that frame real easy. So I've just chose to do it this way. We know our axle is a 5-inch tube, so half of that's 2.5. So we're going to take the measurement from here, the top of that shaft, to the bottom of my level. We're going to add that 2.5 inches to it, and then we're going to subtract this 10 3/4 of frame, and that'll give us our ride height. And then I'll just check that at all 4 locations. It's very important to make sure that you have your air suspension completely aired up. You'll hear this creaking. I'm plugged into shop air, and I'm feeding the wet tank right now. I have an air leak down there on those fittings in my hose, so that's the creaking you keep hearing. But we're set up to 125 psi, so we're good. Another thing is, you want to be as level side to side and forward and back as you can, because if you go up an incline, obviously you can change it. If you're sitting one way or not, it can lean. We don't want any of that. Another thing is, the best thing is roll it back and forth a few times. We had the suspension apart. We'll make sure nothing's in a bind anywhere. Very important. So then we got our measurement, and we'll go to each wheel and check it. Now our ride height rod, the rubber here didn't make it, didn't want to come loose, typical. We made this bracket because ours was crap, and I just kind of eyeballed and guessed where I thought that should be. So obviously we got to replace this because that's not going to work. So when I got it set to the right ride height, I just took a bungee cord to hold this against. So once that's all set and you're comfortable with it, you could also put jack stands underneath the frame at ride height so it can't move. That's also a good idea. The next thing we have to do is that setting that ride height affects our pinion angle. So we need that ride height perfect, because if it's not, it can change that pinion angle drastically. You see the front of the suspension is pivots off of this, and then we adjust it in the back with airbags. So we have the rear end able to do this as air is increased, air is decreased. So if your ride height valve isn't set right and you have not enough air, you're creating less of an angle on your pinion. If you have the proper, then you got the right. If you got too much, you got too much of an angle. U-joints are designed to have no more than, these U-joints are designed to have no more than 3 degrees of working angle. Now don't confuse working angle with measured yoke angle. In order to get your working angle, it takes measuring the yoke and the slope of the drive shaft and either adding or subtracting the 2 numbers based on which one it's doing. So let's start at the front. Because I've measured the front, I know what it is. The front has a 4 degree yoke. All right, so the next thing we have to do, and I'm going to do this for example because I haven't set it up 100% yet, but just to explain. This is our drive shaft slope. Now, let's do the math. Let's make this easier. Let's say it's -1, because for some reason I got my ratchet strap set up. I'm level. I don't know how that just happened, but anyways, let's say it's -1. So this is our slope. So we have -4, because anything that comes down is a negative. Our drive shaft is going down, that's a negative. So we have -4, -1. When they're both the same, negative to negative, you subtract the 2. If they were both positives, you would subtract the 2. If you have dislike, a positive and a negative, you add them. Hope that makes sense. So in this case, let's say it's -1, that's -4. So we have a 3-degree working angle. That working angle is how much of a degree that U-joint cap has to rotate when it's making its turns. So 3 degrees is ideal, so we would be good there. And then we'd have to set this carrier would have to be set. We would measure the angle of this yoke compared to this drive shaft. And then this would need to be within 3 degrees. And then the same thing down here. We want the transmission yoke to be a -4 degrees and the pinion yoke to be a +4 degrees. And this is all on perception of how you look at it. So you have to look at it from the same side all the time. It's the easiest way to do it. Transmission's kicking down. If you look at the differential, the pinion's kicking up, right? So -4, +4. And I've measured that already. So it's +4. So if you drew an imaginary line from that pinion forward and from that transmission yoke back, those two lines would be parallel. The importance of that is because we need to cancel out the rotation of the drive shaft. Drive shafts, when they come around a universal joint, they're coming around at one speed. When it gets to the U-joint, where it basically has a bind to overcome, where the cap has to rotate, it's going to speed up right there. And then once it gets past that cap and you're waiting till the next 90 degrees for the next cap to come around, it'll speed up again. Once it gets past it, slows down slightly, and again, it'll speed up each time. So in order to eliminate that turning into a vibration, you need it to be the same amount of work angle that the U-joint is turning, so that cancels out that bind or potential for vibration. Now the drive shaft itself will still speed up and slow down just like you were thinking, but it takes it away in the U-joint so that the differential and the transmission don't have that issue. Now we have a 3-piece drive shaft, 2-piece drive shaft, as in 3 joints, but we have 2 pieces to the drive shaft. So what we have to do is, because now we're going to be manipulating our driveline angle, this one, we can't put this straight, because any U-joint that's made to run in a straight line with no articulation at all will not last, because it's not letting the needle bearings move inside the caps and spread the grease to keep it lubricated. So you significantly reduce the life of a U-joint. So we want at least 1/2 of a degree on this, and up to a degree of minimum articulation or angle. That's not work angle, that is actual yoke angle. So what we're going to do is we're going to compromise by taking this and dropping it slightly, just enough to get us that degree, and then we will remeasure here to make sure we're still within a 3-degree working angle on all the yokes. I hope that makes sense. Well, I was going to go put this drive shaft in, but that U-joint's junk. So I guess we'll press out this U-joint. See, I like to replace U-joints all at the same time in carrier bearings. That way they're all new, because you know, the labor to change them is nothing right now. It's just the cost of the U-joint. But if you do it later, you know, takes a lot more work. Now, yeah, you know what? I'm taking them both out. I'm just gonna replace both of them. I'm betting that yoke's junk. That came out way too easy. Yeah, it just fell out. Great. Everything else, man, just delays and holy crapper. You can see them lines on there? That's why it's going tut 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 tut. This side's okay. Not that one. That's where you see those lines going this way? That's where the bearings have worn. So this yoke is worn out. I mean, these things should be a tight fit, not fall in and fall out. I shouldn't be able to do this. God, this gets old. I took that U-joint out, the one I showed you that had the hard spot in it, and you can see the wear. And I went ahead and took the other one out. It felt good, but I wanted to inspect it since, you know, this one was in bad shape. Just make sure it's good. I wasn't concerned with this one because this drive shaft's out of a late model truck, and the all the U-joints, when I took it apart, I had to press them out. They were right nice and tight in the yokes, and everything felt good. The carrier bearing feels good. I have no reason to suspect anything's wrong with that. So when I took this one out, I pulled the little bolts out of the end caps, and lo and behold, you know, it's had I know a guy apparently working on it, because two of the bolts, I literally, there's no threads in there. That yoke's got two bolts with no threads at all, and I can't put it back together like that, and I'm not gonna. So I've got more drive shafts at the other property. I'm gonna take a measurement of this and see if I have anything that works. If I do, then we'll just replace a whole drive shaft with something I got better. If not, I'm gonna have that yoke replaced, and that's gonna suck. There's no money in this budget. I have spent so much money. I have never spent as much money on a truck that I was building as I have this one. And you wouldn't think it, but man, is there a lot of money in this thing. But anyway, so that's what we're going to do next. We're getting kind of long, so I'm going to go look for a drive shaft. Hopefully I have one. I don't have to take it in and have a new yoke put on. But if I do, I do. It is what it is. And that never ends up with just one yoke. For some reason, it ends up we need both yokes. We need a slip yoke. We need all the joints. You know, it ends up being a $500 bill. And I really hope that's not the case. So close, yet so far. We're getting long. I'm going to stop here. We'll pick up on the next one with the drive shaft installed. And hopefully we get this thing moving under its own power again, and we can start on the lift axle. So parts are coming in. They're starting to stack up here. So won't be long. We can start working on that lift axle, but I want to get everything else finished up first. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.